make sure we are ready to go. We are recording. Yeah. Let me get a swig of this water. I'm probably going to just keep this in. All right. All right. I think we are good to go, man. All right. We are live. What the heck is going on? All right. Welcome to the first episode of the Built with Intention podcast. So I'm super excited to start this pod because it's funny because I literally just had this idea maybe 2 weeks ago. Might have been 3 at this point, but I meant to record this a lot sooner. But that's okay, man. We are here now. So let's just get right into it, man. So I'm going to just walk you, before we actually get into, what this episode is going to be about, I got to give you guys a quick intro. You know what I mean? It's the first episode. Got to give you guys a quick intro. So each and every pod, we're going to get right into the material that I have planned. But I want to tell you guys who this show is for, primarily, who this demographic, the purpose of this show, who this demographic is, not who this demographic is, I'm only doing one take, who the purpose of this show is for men, right? So this is for men who may feel lost, need some direction. That's the same thing. Who may not know how to handle certain situations. And we're definitely going to cover pretty much every situation you could think of pertaining to being a man, right? We're going to discuss how to be more productive. We're going to discuss how you should carry yourself, how to deal with women. And when I say how to deal with women, this isn't on some dating coach shit, like all the shit you see online. It won't be any type of hey, this is how you get a girl to sleep with you in the next 30 days, a full guide. It's not going to be none of that shit, let's be clear. But everything possible you can imagine when it comes to being a teenager, being a young man in his 20s, young man in his 30s, young man in his 40s, 50, 60 plus, literally everything. So obviously at different ages, we have different things going on. We have different lifestyles. We have different challenges. However, my goal is to have everyone who is a man, everyone who's listening, but I want men to be able to relate or learn from what I plan on discussing on this pod. So let me say this, obviously, because I feel like some young ladies are going to be listening to this as well, which is great. I love that. And you guys could definitely, the ladies can definitely take this and apply it to their lives. You know what I mean? But mainly I will be speaking to men. So, just want to be clear on that. But ladies, you guys can share this with, a younger brother, a male friend, whatever the case may be. So, all right, let's talk about who I am. So my name is Randy Finn. Fun fact about me, I'm a very simple guy, so we're not going to spend too much time on this, but I help men achieve their lean physiques. We'll talk more about that. I'm a big time anime geek, legit big time anime geek. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm just a full-time anime geek. I've been watching anime my whole life. Game of Thrones connoisseur, anime connoisseur too, but Game of Thrones, I have all the books. So let me highlight something. If you're into Game of Thrones, or if you're not into Game of Thrones, you can look this up if you care. But essentially, I can name every Targaryen king over the course of a 300-year dynasty, and I can do it in order. And I could probably tell you facts about each king as well and what was going on at that time in their lives. It's kind of insane, but most fictional things I'm very hip to, right? Okay, so I want you to think of me as your big brother, genuinely, I genuinely care, or your really cool younger brother that you can grab advice from, right? That younger brother that got a good head on his shoulders and you just, go and ask him for advice, okay? So every episode, I'm going to have a topic, and we're just pretty much going to get right into it every episode. The only reason this is even a quote-unquote intro is because it's the very first episode, right? We're going to be diving into some heavy topics for sure, man. Very, very heavy topics. So looking forward to that. Also, at the end of every episode, we're going to have something called a fitness corner. I might change the name. I don't really like the name of that, but whatever. And the purpose of the fitness corner is to give you guys advice on how to achieve like a very lean physique. We're going to talk about, it's going to be like very value in depth advice, what to eat, what exercises to do, literally everything you can imagine, right? Because as a man, you should definitely have a lean physique, but we'll talk about that more. So, excuse me, I'm drinking my black coffee, no cream, no sugar. It's delicious. So today, now let's get into the episode. Today we're going to cover 3 things as men we really need to hone in on. So these things are kind of like what I like to call the building blocks that we should have as a man, right? As men, right? So what are these building blocks? So these aren't in any particular order, but I did list this one first because I'm gonna just go out on a whim and say this is the most important thing. But the first point is you need to develop your mind. Sounds very not cliche. Sounds very simple. You've heard it so many times, but let's actually talk about how important that shit is, right? So throughout my life, I've realized that really think about what holds people back from really doing anything. It's their level of belief that they have in themselves and in that thing. And that starts with your mind. One of my favorites, so I'm going to tend to quote, in reference a lot of different people, celebrities, whatever. One of my favorite athletes of all time is like Kobe Bryant. By the way, Kobe Bryant's the GOAT of basketball. Don't argue with me, argue with your girl. And one thing that I admire about him is really not even the on the court stuff. So I used to play basketball, so I might also throw a ton of different references. One thing that I admire about Kobe was always just his mindset. Like, cause that's the thing, dude. It's not really, this is what I learned, dude. Life isn't always about, like, yeah, you want to, be successful and stuff like that, but it's really not about how you are when you're winning. It's about how you are when you're losing or when you're preparing in your preparation. You know what I mean? So that's why I admire him so much. And if you can have an unbreakable mind, you can do literally anything. So one of my favorite rappers, just like, I don't really have many favorite rappers, but he's on this list, but rapper named Joey Badass, he said this in one of his songs. I'm going to just paraphrase the lyrics. He says, "Sky's the limit. That's what they told the effing fool. Now I'm aiming for the sun and moon," right? So that essentially means that, like, even the sky is not a limit. People like, sky's the limit. Da, 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 da. Like, nah, like, even the sky's not the limit. And this is kind of nitpicking on that quote. However, there is no limit, dude. Like, you have to approach life with this mindset. Like, so I plan on sharing my own experiences of things that I've learned from and stuff like that. So the amount of ideas and moves that I've wanted to make in my life, but the self-doubt that I had, maybe I'll go into like details. I'll tell you stories like in a different episode. The self-doubt that I had really like held me back. You know what I mean? And it took me too long to realize this, but as I got older, people were telling me different things like, yeah, man, like you should do this or you should do that. Like, and they gave me like that confidence unknowingly. You know what I mean? Not that I was searching for it. They didn't even know that they gave it to me. You know what I mean? So sidebar. I don't know why I thought about this. But as men, so here's how we can help each other as men kind of do this. Like, dude, sometimes, like, being a man is tough. You know this. You listening. Being a man is not easy. Sometimes, man, it's good to, like, show each other love. You know what I mean? So I'm going to kind of touch a little bit on this a little bit more at the end in the fitness corner. But, dude, so let me give you an example. So my homie, right? My homie Lorenzo, shout out to Lorenzo. By the way, if I tell a story at all on this pod and you my homie, I'm shouting you out. So shout out to my homie Lorenzo, man. Great guy. So I was telling him, like, yeah, dude, like he just finished lifting. I was like, yo, fam, you look insane right now. Like, you know what I mean? I can tell that meant something to him, because we be working hard, bro. And sometimes, a lot of men, we don't really need like a lot of attention or a lot of, we don't need like a lot of attention on certain stuff. But when people notice that you're working hard, dude, that shit feels great, right? So let's go back to the mindsets. So you need to really get away from, because the majority of people, like that exist on Earth today have like very weak minds. And so here's the thing. It's a difference between having a weak mindset and just having like a negative outlook on things. People with negative outlooks on things, they just don't believe anything is possible. They'll try to shit on any idea you have. Why are you doing that? You're doing too much. Like those people are kind of like, I'm not gonna say a lost cause, but when I say a weak mindset, it just simply means that, like you have to train your mindset like you train a muscle. And people who have like self doubt on things, bro, if you want to be confident, that just comes from doing shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, just go do stuff. If you're not confident to go run, just run. You know what I mean? And you'll build that confidence the more you do it. So here, speaking of running, right? So if you know me, I'm low key like psycho, but in a good way. Let me add some context. So, I'm the type of guy, I believe in like delusional optimism. So, it's like a big dreamer almost. I'm a big dreamer, but my dreams are also grounded in some type of reality, so it's possible, but it's very ambitious. You know what I mean? So let's compare that against the people with limited beliefs, right? So recently I got deep into running, right? I mean, shit, I just ran a half marathon yesterday. Half marathon's 13.1 miles, just if you didn't know that. So to me, like when I started getting into running, so I played basketball, right? And honestly, basketball is very, cardio endurance based, right? It wasn't because one of my, so my brother, shout out Post Up League. My brother got a little league, and one of the players came up to me. He was like, "Yeah, man, like I see you be doing all the running, dog. Like how you be doing that, man? Like that's crazy." Da, da, da. And I was just like, honestly, bro, like if you play a sport, like obviously different sports require different cardio demands and different energy levels, but if you play something like basketball, you can transition into running. I'm gonna just go ahead and say if you play any sport that's heavy on cardio, football is like short bursts, but like it's still like, you still gotta run, and like, dude, you can transition over to distance running pretty easily, actually. Obviously, like there's some nuance to running and stuff like that, and you do have to build that cardio base, your aerobic base, but you can do it you could do it quicker than someone who's just like coming off the couch and doing it. You know what I mean? The basketball is just straight cardio. I mean, obviously you got to run, jump, change directions. But anyway, let me get y'all a heads up. I tend to ramble a lot too, but I ramble, but then it's kind of like the rambles that I go on are like circling that general point that I made. But anyway. So as I got into running, I became like low-key a little bit more addicted to it. I joined a run club. I was going to different run clubs around my city. Running community is great, by the way. You should definitely join a run club. Find one that fits you, where you relate to the people. You know what I mean? You can connect with the people easily. Yeah, it's a great time. So I started doing a bunch of different races and challenges. I did my first half marathon back in November. It's March at the time of me recording this. So I did a half marathon in November. Then I did a half marathon yesterday. So I'm 2 halves in. And then I did it. I don't want to run through all my races, but I've done like a good amount of races. I've done like probably like 10, 11 races. So when I did the half marathon back in November, the next weekend I went to Philly. And I did the 8K in Philly. I wanted to do the half marathon in Philly, but I didn't get in. And people who are like, and this is me kind of nitpicking, but people who are just like, yo, that's crazy. Like you're crazy, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not trying to shit on them completely, but it's just like, dude, like the moment you say out your mouth that you can't do something, or it's like, man, that can never be me, bro. I was just having this conversation last night. Like, dude, you got to realize something. When you speak words out into your mind, out into the universe, you tend to believe yourself. Like, for instance, right? Did you ever tell yourself like, man, I'm gonna get up and do this tomorrow, right? And you didn't do it. Then it's like, you got to realize like you just broke a promise with yourself. And that might sound extreme, but the next time you go and do something, your mind, you're going to tell yourself, all right, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Your body's just going to be like, okay, Randy just needed that dopamine hit. I know he's not serious. You see what I'm saying? And you just build up a tolerance of basically lying to yourself. Like it works in both ways. Like when you build disciplined habits, it becomes to the point where it's just something you do now. For instance, right? I'm trying to make my bed, right? I'm trying to start making my bed every day. I have to build up that habit to do it because I don't do it right now, right? Once I build up that habit, it's not it's just something I do now. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like you wake up and brush your teeth every morning. That's not, you just do it because you've been doing it. So if you want to introduce a new habit, you just do it until it's normal. Okay, I'm off script like a motherfucker. I told y'all I was in a ramble. The passion came out, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, it just irritates me when I hear people with these limiting beliefs. Like I said, it's nothing wrong with, one thing what I learned when I train people is like, there are people who just genuinely don't know what to do, right? And then there are people who don't believe, so they want to do it, they just don't know what to do. And then there are people who just need, so those are the people that need direction. And then there are some people who are just like, bro, like, I'm never going to be able to do this. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's move on. So spent a lot of time on that topic. That's how important it is. So the second point is, so the first point was develop your mindset. The second point is develop your body. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this topic because it's kind of, I mean, everybody knows this. It's self-explanatory. But I actually want you to write this down or jot this on your phone. Your body is a reflection of your discipline and habits. Your body is a reflection of your discipline and habits, right? So there's no way around this, really. I mean, your body looks the way it does simply based on the decisions you made up until this point in your life. Is that really that simple? So you just gotta develop the discipline in every aspect. You need to be disciplined with your training, your sleep, the things you put in your body, what you're feeding yourself. And when I say feeding yourself, it's not just, I meant to say this in my last point, but when we feed ourselves every day with the content we consume, right? So if you're watching a lot of bullshit, your mind is gonna just be focused on bullshit basically the whole time. But we also need to worry about what we put in our bodies in terms of nutrition. People don't realize how important that shit affects your energy levels, the way you move, the way you feel, the shit that you put in your body. You know what I mean? And also, funnily enough, I've noticed that that's an aspect of your attractiveness, what you put into your body, because women know, like, it's almost like and I'm gonna go deeper into this, but like, if you're eating a bunch of bullshit, women are almost like, damn, like, he just kind of puts, like, he doesn't feel himself properly. Like, he's not taking care of himself. You know what I mean? Taking care of yourself is a part of attraction. So anyway, let's move on. So develop your mind, develop your body. Then we have your actions, right? So I know I named this podcast Built with Intention. I should have named this shit Built with Action, but nah, that's the reason it's intention is because, so intention means nothing without action, right? But I just named it Built with Intention because I feel like that's a good starting point. Like, we need to be more intentional with our lives. Like, we need to do this for that reason. You know what I mean? But action is the number one thing that you will get. Action is the number one thing that you will need to achieve your desired result. Like, honestly, like, let me show y'all how much I don't bullshit. Like, bro, I had this idea. I just had an idea. Like, it just popped up in my head to start a podcast. And I'm like, damn, okay. Do some research real quick. Okay. Order the mic real quick off Amazon. Went on Amazon, pressed the button, got the mic now. Okay. What software do I need to use? Okay, cool. Let's start scripting. Let's start finding ideas. You know what I mean? That shit took me, like I said, I will admit it did take me longer than I wanted, been doing other shit, life and stuff, but I'm not going to let that be an excuse. You know what I mean? So I'm not perfect either, right? But this shit happened relatively quick. You feel what I'm saying? So let me add a caveat to this too. So based on what I just told you, I'm going to add a caveat to that, right? So one of the biggest lies that I hear, or it was kind of like something I heard growing up, right, is that I need to be patient. So let me go a layer deep. Patience is good, but I feel like you're patient with your results. You're not patient with your actions, right? So if I can do 10 things today, let me do those 10 things. Now, those 10 things, I might want to get this result ASAP, but doing those 10 things today will propel me quicker than doing, 2 of those things today. You see what I'm saying? Like, be patient with what happens, your results, but you're quick as hell with your actions, right? Everybody understand that? All right. So those are my 3 points. Didn't want to go too deep on I'm going to expound on kind of all three of these points in future episodes, but I just wanted to have a little short episode. So let's talk about the fitness corner. So remember, this is where we get fitness tips, advice, hacks, blah blah blah. I'm probably gonna change the name. Fitness corner is I don't like it, but I mean it's not that big of a deal. So today's topic on the fitness corner, I'm telling you guys, this is important. But today's topic is why every man needs to experience being lean at least one time in his life. Yes. Every man needs to experience being lean. So, what does being lean mean, right? Let's talk about that. Being lean is low body fat percentage with a good amount of muscle, right? So, you have enough muscle, but you're not. So, there's like other ends of the spectrum. So, you got the skinny fat guy who's just skinny with no muscle, right? Then you got the OD bodybuilder guy. Shout out to bodybuilders. That has too much muscle. You see what I'm saying? But that lean physique is like right in the middle, right? So, like you're like skinny enough to where you have enough muscle to where women respect you, but then you're also like, you're big enough, right? It's a happy medium, right? So let's talk about why you need to have this. So first of all, it looks the most aesthetic, right? Meaning like women are attracted to like that V shape in us, right? Like that V shape. The V shape is when you look at your back and it kind of looks like a V. So you got a small waist, a big back, and you got wide shoulders. That's kind of like that V taper. Everybody, I mean, if you're in the fitness shit, you know what a V taper is. So women are just genuinely physically attracted to that. And you know how, so us as men, right? You know how we might like a certain body type on a girl. So let me preface this, like every girl, looks great. But like generally speaking, there's a body type that most men like, right? They like a woman who's like slimmer but thicker on the bottom, right? It's kind of the same for women. Women like men who are bigger, have muscle, but it's not too much. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's just the facts. So, we make the rules for each other. But anyway, so once you pair that aesthetic physique with like the athleticism, like, dude, it's like a godlike physique, right? And another thing too, like people start to treat you differently. Women start to treat you differently. Everybody, like this ain't even just about like women, like like men even treat you differently. Like men respect other men with good physiques, because when I see you walk into a room and you have like a great physique, it tells me something. It tells me what kind of person you are. It tells me, like, it just speaks. You see what I'm like? It just tells me something. Like it gives me a telepathic communication that we just opened up. Like, damn, that dude take care of himself. And if he can take care of his body, I know he's taking care of his life in other aspects. You see what I'm saying? That's the importance of a lean physique. You see what I'm saying? And you do it to. Here's the thing, because there are people who will be like, "Oh, I don't want to do it for other people." You're not doing it for other people. But at the end of the day, and this is just a fact, like you get based on how people perceive you, based on how you take care of yourself, you get different opportunities. You get more opportunities. People want to be around you more. There's so many pros. But once again, you will never experience this if you don't get the lean physique. So what I'm saying, people who are lean definitely understand what I'm saying. Women treat you more. You get more looks. I'm like, bro, it's just all around better, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. This is my first episode. Thanks for tuning in. Man, if you hated this episode, if you got any feedback, or if you love this episode, please reach out to me. You can reach me on the Instagram at DekuFin, DEKU Fin, DEKUFINN, no underscores, no nothing, DEKUFINN. If you're wondering if that's Deku from My Hero Academia, you were correct. Told y'all I was a nerd. All right, man, that is the first episode, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.